Let the boys play around one time. They're not trusting. So we're here, and it's number 8. Straight up, number 8 is beautiful, but if you lay it down, it means infinity.
What?
Infinity in maths and in life. Infinity sign. In China, the number 8 is believed to express the totality of the universe. Got one more. This is my favourite. Number 8 is used 73 times in the Bible. Whereas the numbers 29 and 42, 4,500, 22,000 and 40,000 are used only 8 times in the Bible. It's number 8. It's the podcast that we are here doing. It's number 8.
You went down long enough.
Ah, lovely. That's quite an interesting fact.
Well, give me the long one again.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Number 8 is used 73 times in the Bible.
That's not that interesting. Sure.
But then,
Says an atheist.
there's this guy on
Do we need to
Yeah,
set that out right from the beginning? Don't we?
no, I'm fine with that. But then the numbers, and I have no idea who worked this out. This is a man who needs a girlfriend. The numbers 42, 29, 4,500, 22,000 and 40,000 are used 8 times in the Bible.
Really?
Oh God. Okay.
I don't know. I just
That's how many animals are on Noah's Ark.
8.
No, the other
Oh,
number.
yeah. But it's like, it's amazing. Some amazing facts about 8.
And that's all we have from Bible studies this week.
And then you get someone that says something like this: 8. It's bubbly, like me, mind, body, and spirit. Hey?
Oh, that's everything that's wrong with the internet right there.
Don't go on that website again, will you?
Yeah.
So you can hear my voice. We can hear his voice.
Yep.
We heard his playing.
Yeah, and then we can hear Matt's voice. Who's
Hello. I've got to do the radio voice.
that's really Radio 2, 1 in the morning, that is. So hi Matt, you alright?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I think that was great.
Lovely guitar playing.
Yeah. yeah.
I have to say that this has been the longest setup we've ever done for a podcast. Because normally we just plug everything in, and then Matt's got his sound engineer ears on. A bit more compressor. Have you got this on? Have you got this on?
no,
This on?
I'd
Oh,
like
I
it
don't know.
We're just panicking and throwing leads at him. And he's going, yeah, no, I think we can get this much better.
So any audio problems are not my fault this time.
Hang on, I didn't set it up. I just threw suggestions out there. That's all I did.
So, Matt, can you, in a sentence or two, I always ask this, in a sentence or two, can you tell us who are you, what do you do, and why have we got you on the podcast?
I'm Matt. I am a freelance music producer / sound engineer / tutor / whoever will give me money to do things. And I don't really know why you've got me on that, because I'm funny and interesting, surely. I don't know why you've got me on.
That's why I've got you on.
Sure, yeah, there we go.
I always do this. Mm-hmm. What have you been listening to over the last week?
Oh, God. See, yeah, no, I hate this question because
Yeah,
it's
I know.
always something really mundane. Like, on the way here, I was listening to Kings of Leon. Now, I'm not particularly ashamed
That is
of
pretty mundane.
Exactly, yeah. And actually, most of the time I listen to stuff that is pretty mundane because it's in my car, and I want mundane music in the car that I can kind of attempt to sing along to. You know, I don't want to.
Oh my God, you were doing Sex on Fire in the car, weren't you?
I'm not a fan of that album. Actually, it was because of the times. Is that what it's called?
Only by the Night.
No, that's Sex on Fire. I don't like that album.
Okay.
The previous album I like.
Oh yeah.
I might even, if I'm particularly drunk, which I'm not yet, put it in my top 10 albums because it's just a sort of quintessential sort of indie pop album, and it was a real sort of game changer for their career. Admittedly, for the worst, musically speaking, but it was, it just kind of hit a point where it wasn't slightly, what's the word? Not avant-garde. It wasn't blues rock anymore. It wasn't niche.
Yeah.
It was suddenly mainstream. And I really like that moment when it kind of switches, when they kind of go, oh, I understand what people like.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Can I just put this story in dead quick? Because I reckon we've all got someone. Stop me if you've heard this or you know someone who's had this has happened to. In your car with your kids, they're young. Whoa, my sex is on fire. Kid asks you, what are they saying, mummy or daddy? And the parent frantically goes, he's talking about his burning socks, darling. You know what I mean? It's happened numerous times. But I like that track.
Yeah, we've not mentioned it. When the swearing happens in the car on music, I kind of don't say anything, and I kind of like the fact
Don't
that
bring
it's
any
all
attention.
right there. Yeah. It's like comedy and music, it's fine. Yeah, and when you're talking to each other, maybe not so much when you're 6 and 4. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think there are boundaries that can be pushed with music, and I think that's one of the less important, but it's still one of them.
So when you listen to music, being sound producer, did you say? Freelance?
Freelance music producer.
I want to get this right. Music producer, okay. Do you listen with musician ears, or do you listen with, I really like that compressor setting on that kick drum?
Oh, both. I think trying to.
Well, hang on, there's another set of ears there as well, though, isn't it?
There is.
Like the layman. The
audience, I think, is the slightly.
Yeah, that's it.
Slightly kinder way.
Slightly less, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to get that immediate impact that you think anyone would get. It's trying to get that commonality about it. I do like listening to things for their production. Just like musicians like listening to the playing rather than the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I try and extract the two because we've had this conversation about how I don't like certain bands, certain types of music that are kind of muso bands, because I think it's kind of a technical exercise. I think you can be very technical in kind of production terms, but actually the music isn't.
We had a big argument about a perfect circle.
We did, and to be honest,
it was a Rob Stag do, and we were a fair few pints in. And it came on. We were at the World's End in Camden. It came on, and I flipped my lid because I bloody love Perfect Circle.
Yeah.
And Matt was like,
and what, you struggle?
Matt was like, really?
No, and it's one of those weird ones because I did. And there's something sort of fundamentally I don't quite like about them, which is why I have the conversation. There are far more bands that are just infinitely horrible that I wouldn't have the conversation because there's no point. Mm-hmm. It's because they're kind of close to the bone, They do, historically they do mean something to me. So,
you said it was too overproduced. It's too clean and too overproduced, I think.
No, there's something about the way they put songs together that I don't like. There's something about it's particularly the band rather than the vocal. The vocal is kind of a little bit. It's difficult to use words. The words that they like to use in academia is black and white.
Yeah.
As in race, as in, and that's quite a problematic term, as you can imagine, because people interpret it in a million different ways.
I imagine they take that all the wrong way.
Exactly, yeah. But fundamentally, what I think it means is black music is kind of from the soul. It's immediate. It's straight out. It's emotion. It's unmediated. Mm-hmm. Whereas white music is calculated and precise and produced, and and everything else. And that's, as I say, people won't particularly like that, but. There's something about the way Perfect Circle put their songs together that I think is just too precise and it's not spontaneous enough. I like stuff that's, of that ilk, but I'd rather listen to Converge over Dillinger Escape Plan. And there'll be people out there kind of going, well, what's the difference between those two bands?
I know what you mean.
Is there any pressure from the record companies, to produce?
I've never had a conversation with a record company in my life.
I'm wondering though, is that where they come from? Do they think, crap, we've got to create something better than the last one?
I've got a theory on this. I think, and if you use Green Day and Muse as examples, I think that bands tend to go a little bit shit when they start playing arenas, because suddenly it's all about the chorus, and it's all about the sing-along, it's all about the mega hooks, and it's all about writing stuff.
There are technical considerations there, because if you play a song in a big space, if it's too complicated and too fast, you can't hear it. It just sounds shit.
So everything gets really stripped down, everything gets really blocky.
And people kind of say that when it's simplified, that it's worse, because, from an intellectual point of view, that kind of makes sense. The less is not always more. But, I think they strip it down. If they do it right, they strip it down to the core components, which I think is...
Well, if you think about AC/DC, then they absolutely do that right. If you think,
good example.
If you think about Muse, when for me they started getting a little bit crappy was after Black Holes and Revelations, which I think probably is about the time when they start playing these massive bloody stadiums.
Yeah.
And Green Day, when they started getting a bit crappy for me, was like American Idiot onwards, and I think it's the same kind of era, whereas Basket Case, Dookie and Nimrod, all that kind of stuff, is brilliant.
Yeah.
I also think it's based on the era that you find the band. You know what I mean? That's all. You know. That can be a lot said as well. You know what I mean? Like you say that when it became crappy for you, I don't know.
I see what you mean.
In terms of the band's been alive 20 years, you might have only found them 5 years ago, and you found their fourth album rather than their second.
Well, I feel really sorry for Red Hot Chili Pepper fans.
If you discover Green Day with American Idiot, you might have a different outlook on it. But I know what you mean. There is definitely a shift, and I think it's gigs they play, whether it's stadiums or something smaller. And radio play is the other one. How easily does a song drop into a playlist? Yeah. Because there are so many bands that sound great, Converge being one of them, to name drop the same band, that you put that on a compilation, it's just like, oh God, what the hell's this? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you listen to the albums in entirety and you kind of get absorbed in it, you get it a bit more.
Those tend to be my favourite bands.
Yeah, likewise, the slow burners. I mean, it's OK Computer versus the Bends, isn't it? It's that whole kind of, do you just want tracks that work on your shuffle playlist, or do you want to sit and listen to an album?
That's nail on the head. I reckon a lot of people have stopped buying albums since Napster. And they're just downloading single songs. One song from that, one from that, one from that. I talk to a lot of my mates, work friends, and I'm like, "What are you into? What are you into?" And they're like, "Ah, a bit of this, bit of that," and it literally is. It's
probably 10 seconds of this. 20 seconds. Skip.
But it really is. That whole buying of the album is a long gone thing almost, sadly, I think. But, anyway.
But then I do the same thing because that's what I was listening to in the car, going back to what we were saying 5 minutes ago. It's, there are reasons for it.
Yeah.
I do like to put on some headphones and sit in a dark room and listen to an entire album if I can, though, which I can't. Because
Pink Floyd wouldn't have survived in the modern era, because Dark Side of the Moon, you have to start at the beginning and go through to the end, and a lot of the Wall, for example, is a story from beginning to end. If they released it these days, you can't shuffle through that stuff. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. No.
You can, though, because you sort of know it in the back of your mind somewhere. You know how...
Pink Floyd's... I mean, if it was released today,
I totally understand what you're saying, but
it's a different thing.
No, it's crazy. It's an enormous thought.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any.
There's no answer. There's not.
Reasons.
No. It's all opinions. It's everything, and it's completely objective. And
I think
which is great. Which is what makes it interesting.
All you can ever do is just make the music that you want to make. If you want to make an album and say I've made an album. People like albums, listen to it, and you just have to accept that everything you make is going to be a niche now rather than taking the world by storm. I think it doesn't seem to happen anymore.
Be proud of what you love. That's fair.
Obviously, you're a very good musician, as we just heard demonstrated on your shiny Epiphone there. through your, let's get technical, what is it? Line 6?
My Line 6 floor pod, yes. Everything that I own comes from Gumtree. It's all sort of 10 years. 10 years ago it would have been great. It would have cost me a fortune. Didn't cost me very much, as it happens. People can't get rid of them fast enough.
That sounds great. Awesome.
No, it's all right. Yeah. I would have loved to have heard it in stereo, personally, because the room ambience is something to behold. But anyway, my entire studio is built off out of stuff from Gumtree, and it's because I have no money. And it is what it is.
Well, I'm going to make an assumption here that you started off as a musician and then progressed into being a music producer.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption. And I think, don't they all? I don't know.
Well, I'm interested. What was the point where, because you introduced yourself as a producer and not as a musician, where was the point where you started to think yourself more as one and not the other?
About 6 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
I've been a stay-at-home dad for like 5 years because I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. I did do a bit of part-time work at the beginning. I stopped that a couple of years ago. So now I'm trying to get back out to work. So everyone I ever meet, I don't give them my name. I just say, hello, I'm a producer. Please throw money at me. That's why that is. I was thinking when I was playing that, if I'd been playing guitar all day in a guitar band, I would have said I was a guitarist. Bass, the same thing. Today I've been making a track, so I feel like a producer.
Okay.
Lots of days I don't feel like any of those things. It's just, it's whatever's happening that day, to be honest. So, yeah.
And did you do a course in music production, or were you...
Not in music production per se, no. I did a BTEC National, in performing arts, music, Eastleigh
Okay.
College, which
Okay.
is where I met some of your esteemed previous...
Go and do some name dropping.
Adam Kamani,
Because
for
they're
one.
big stars now.
I can say him. I called his name in a register. No, I didn't really call his name in a register. Kamani! So yeah, lots of those guys I met at Eastleigh College, having done the course there. It's performance and it's music tech, and it's all mixed up together.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
And yeah, I was a guitarist then. I started playing bass when I was doing the HNC, which came afterwards because there were just no bass players, which is how all bass players start playing bass.
We're all bass players.
Yeah. Did you all want to be guitarists or singers?
I
or?
was a guitarist first.
No, I was a bass player.
Always a bass player. You
Well-
went in, you went, I want a bass.
No, that's actually, I'm completely lying. I bought a guitar.
There we go.
So
See?
there you're right. and my friend said, he didn't say you're shit at that. But
He said, the bass is much simpler.
He did say though, I've noticed when you're out clubbing, you're air bassing rather than guitaring. So he took my guitar and bought me a bass, and I just fitted. It just felt right. It just felt better.
I never thought of that
felt-
as a selection process.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just-
taking students to nightclubs is probably not a good business model, but what do you air play? That's what you should play.
I don't know. You know, that's what he noticed, and I'm like a bit scary because I must have been on the dance floor doing Freddie Mercury style manoeuvres, but with a bass guitar instead of a half microphone. I don't know. So, but anyway, moving on.
Played bass because there were no bass players, and I guess that's why, not really why I did production, but every band says, we need to record, we either need to save for the next 6 months, or we can just try and do it ourselves. And that's basically what we did. I had a 4-track, which is going to lead you neatly on to some of the wonderful
I like
musical
this.
examples.
I like this. It's almost like we pre-planned this.
I started to record things just instinctively, I guess is probably a fair way to put it. And because I had that knowledge, that technical thing going on when I was in bands, it was like, oh yes, we should definitely record this, I never thought of myself as a producer. It was just a means of recording what we did, literally, so we'd remember the song, so we have something we could learn.
But there must be something about you that you put your hand up rather than any other band member. There must be something.
Oh, maybe there is. But you'd have to. I don't know. Not something that I'm conscious of.
I think it takes a particular type of person, because many people want to be the stars in the studio and they want to be the Axl Rose or the Slash. Is it David Geffen? Who produced him?
I can't remember.
Oh, bloody hell, I've got myself into a proper dead end. David Geffen over the label. He was someone else.
Obviously the label is named after.
But like there's someone who is happy to take a slightly.
Shall I Google?
Go and do it.
No, all right.
Speak Google.
See, I've got no idea who produced Guns N' Roses.
I can't even know.
And Guns N' Roses is one of my I'd say they are the band that got me into music. It was kind of chart radio rubbish, and then someone went, "Have you ever heard this?" I was like, "Wow," because I had no idea what misogyny was then, so it didn't bother me.
Yeah, actually, Rocket Queen's quite.
This is how grown-ups talk. Wow.
But do you see what I mean? There's someone who's happy to be more like the other side of the wall and is happy just to fiddle with all the buttons and everything, make it sound good, rather than being the actual person. Yeah,
I don't think it's really a question. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'd like to be in the limelight at all. I've done a strange shade of crimson right now speaking to you. I can feel how hot it is in here.
Mike Klink?
Oh, no, I did know that. Yeah, there we go.
I didn't.
God, what else has he done, though? I don't know him from anywhere else.
So,
he must be huge.
Well, he doesn't need to do anything else, does he?
Well, no, I suppose not.
I'm just...
I've got to know now.
You carry on chatting and I will look these facts up.
I don't like the spotlight, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, or I can just... if I can hear something's wrong, I'm like, I need to put that right. And it's just...
That's cool. That's
but
good.
it's a lot to learn to do what you do. I mean, it's a lot of... I dabble in it a very little bit, and I can see there's a big wide world.
I think if you ever look at everything there is to learn and go, yes, I'm going to embark on this career and I want to learn, then yes, it is. But when you solve problems one by one, that guitar sounds a bit tinny. Which one of these controls changes that? It's not the low, it's not the mid. Oh, it's the high.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You just do that over and over again for every problem that there is to solve. Then you do just start.
There's a logic to it. There's a like a common sense almost to it.
There is.
That sounds like I'm dissing the whole process.
No, not at all.
I love the process myself, and I'm just not as far along in learning scales as guys like yourself. But it is so much fun. It is so much fun, isn't it?
Yeah, there's lots to do, lots to play with.
Oh, yeah. And then there's too much to play with sometimes too, isn't it?
Making decisions is.
I've got some questions about beginning. You know what I mean? Like we're beginners tend to add as many effects as they can, and I've got some questions later on. But can I just give you some Guns N' Roses? Sorry.
No, yeah. So Mike Klink, what else is he famous for?
White Snake.
Okay, yeah, not a fan.
White Snake riff.
Hold on. Sing me a song.
Who's got a White Snake riff?
Here I go again.
Oh God.
Dun, dun, dun. Like a drifter, I was born to walk along. Megadeth.
Oh, Megadeth. Yeah, again, that was one of my.
Sorry. UFO, Jefferson Starship.
Oh wow.
Eddie Money and many others. That's a
None of those. I wouldn't say any of those particularly same production of like.
I say Motley Crue. Motley Crue.
Because Guns N' Roses is like I imagine it sounds like there's a lot of spill and it's all very kind of like garage produced rather than like it doesn't sound very clean, does it? But a lot of that stuff really does. Interesting
Stuff.
Yeah, well, no, it sounds like a garage band that are trying to sound clean, I think. If you listen to the Illusion albums, I listened back to them recently.
Yeah.
And actually, I think you can really hear the band in turmoil going into the studio off their face, for like 18 months or however long it took to record those albums, just kind of putting things down and someone at the end going, oh Christ, I've got to stick all this together somewhere. And,
Mike Klink saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, poor Mike Klink. That's why you haven't heard of him since. He's absolutely burnt out now.
Absolute stress wagon.
But you started on a 4-track.
Yes.
I mean, I would imagine, like I said, I'm not very experienced in this. I imagine that's a pretty good way of starting and getting into it because there's not much in the way of equipment and you've got to be very creative about the different
that
sounds
is
you're
something
making.
actually that I guess people don't have the luxury of now. If you wanted to do a multi-track recording when I was a lad, a 4-track was kind of the most accessible thing, and it's a really simple thing. And if you find yourself sat in front of a computer with Logic or Cubase or whatever, there's so much. Unless you go into it looking for things, it's just all these menus that are just completely. Whereas with something like that, it's in front of you, and there's only a few buttons, and if you press one of them, it stops working, and if you press it again, it starts again. So it is quite a good way to do it, and I suppose it's built up from that. It was never intentional. It was never designed. But
and then you thought, I need a better mic. I need a better whatever. I need a better whatever. And then just
I didn't think a lot of that stuff. I probably should have done because it was always a means to an end. So I'd write a song, I'd write a riff, and I just want to record it, stick it down, and then kind of go, I sort of think the drums should go like this, drum machine out. It sounds horrendous, but you get the idea. The hi-hat is tick, 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 but it's something like that, just with a bit of groove, And everything that I recorded was like that. It was never meant to be heard by anyone except for people in the band.
Yeah.
It was just it was a notepad, basically. So that was all it was ever for. Now, obviously, probably since the Modular Series, Amoki era, sort of 2006-ish, bands that I wanted to, go somewhere, laughably, he says, thinking back to the songs. I wanted them to sound good. So that was kind of like, actually, we should work really hard to get this to sound good. I think we actually got sent an album off to be mastered and stuff like that because we thought it was, the bee's knees at the time. Prior to that, it was just note-taking. Mm-hmm. So,
Shall we listen to an example? Because you've brought some stuff in with you.
I have. Now, we're going to have to... So what have you got queued up first? I think you've got...
Nothing. It all sat in a folder.
So there was the two that I sent you today. One of them was the 4-track version of a song that I did probably about 18 years ago.
Okay, what's it called?
I retitled it today, and I forgot something about machines.
Machines all of the way to the sea.
Machines all the way to the sea.
Where does that come from?
Because that's what it sounds like. It's drum machine, and then it gradually, the original one is 6 minutes long, so I'm not going to make you listen to the whole thing. But it basically, it's... How am I going to... am I going to hear this? Are you going to play this now, or are you going to drop this in?
Okay, right. We'll go behind the scenes.
He's breaking the myth now.
I've got to know.
I'm going to pause the recording.
Oh, there we go.
And then we're going to listen to
Have a scratch. Have a think.
Carl can have a wee, maybe. Do you have a wee? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll listen to it, and then I'll press record, and it'll all be seamless.
Okay, right. So what I'd advise you do in that case is perhaps play a small segment of it, because what I used to do is plug in a drum machine into one channel, and maybe via an effects pedal or something like that, and then I would just improvise a structure with the drum machine. So I'd start it off, and it would do 4 bars of 4/4, and then I'd change it in some way to make a kind of verse chorus thing, and then I would go back and put things over the top, and it would I'd build a song in reverse basically.
Right, okay.
So everything is improvised and everything is one take. And yeah, I'm really proud of it. I think if anyone ever listened to it, they go, "This is awful."
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
we do actually have an email account now for reviews.
Oh, I see. I was just wondering what the relevance of that was.
No, I thought it all
Just
on
bragging.
We're legitimate. Okay, right. I'm going to stop. Ready?
Now, see, I like that.
Wow. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I'm glad you do. No, that's good. That's ambience to the max, isn't it?
I mean, it doesn't meet a lot of the standards that I would set for myself these days, but there's something fundamental I like about it. I like the improvisation. I like the kind of the fact that it goes somewhere, it takes you somewhere. You know, the atmosphericness of it. You know, sat at home in silence. It sounds a bit bleak, but you know what I mean. There was nothing there, and it creates a place, which is kind of what you're trying to do with music, isn't it? You're just trying to put people in a place.
Mm-hmm. I was hearing the actual time sort of recording.
Yeah.
With the 4-track. Yeah, that's what I was hearing through that. It's like I could hear you. Like, how do you explain this without sounding geeky?
Well,
you're adding reverb.
Yeah, so there's no
as you're recording.
Yeah, there's no going back. There's no there's no going back.
There's no going back.
You can't kind of pick and choose bits and then splice them together. I guess splicing is the key thing that's different now. It's the tape. You record it in the same physical place on the tape, so it has to stay there. So yeah, everything that I did was one take because I'm just
in situ.
You're just ridiculously impatient. I just go, that'll do. I want it to be finished. I don't want to keep doing the same bit over and over again. I just had to try and kind of create things with the few switches that I had in front of me. So I'd press play on the drum machine, and I had two outputs. So sometimes I send one output through a distortion pedal on one channel, and the main bit of the drums would go on the other channel, and then I could drop in this kind of breakbeat sounding thing over the top, and then by cutting it in and out, you create structure just from the drums. And then when you've got structure, you kind of build on it. So although listening back, there's not a song there, there's not it's certainly not a finished piece, it's certainly not a record in the kind of commercial sense of the word.
No.
The processes are all there, and I really like the fact that I can hear that. I like the fact that I did that sort of 20 years ago, and it was,
That's good.
It was all still in there. But having done that, I've kind of played with it today and kind of gone, well, what could I have done if I'd had Logic or whatever DAW in front of me? I made a track that you're going to drop in.
Yes, we are.
I was thinking it'd be at the end because that makes perfect sense.
Let's do it now.
Because I did it this very day. But this is the track I made today.
So hold on, before we listen to it, what did you change? So you took like a little sample of it.
So I chopped the whole thing in, and I chopped it up into samples, and then I did lots of things, kind of layering the samples up. Because, as I said, with the tape, it's linear. You can't change where things are. So immediately you can take things from the end, from the middle, and put them, with bits from the beginning, from the end. Mix it all up. Have it in different channels, have it each bit going through different effects. You can do all kinds of things. And because you've got all these tools available to you, you can drop in other instruments and, all the processing you can imagine. You can actually do something to take away the tape hiss from a 4-track.
I kind of like that, though.
I do like that, the fact that it's there. But I kind of like the fact that it sounds, even the new track still has a certain analogue quality about it. It's not the analogue that perhaps some of the purists will go for in a studio, but it is tape nonetheless, and it's yeah, I didn't want to hide what it was, but I just thought, what can I do with that today? In fact, what can I do with that today to show it in its best light? Because that's, again, kind of the job of a producer. When someone turns up with a song or an idea or whatever, you go, well, I need to make this great now. So how do you do that? So
Well, it's a good phrase. I need to make this great
now, yesterday.
rather than saying I need to make this better. Which they probably don't want to hear. But it's truthful. At the end of the day, it's the right thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a certain standard. I don't think I could really define what it was in words, but for me, there's a yes. You press play on something and it's either a yes or a no.
Yeah.
It either drops below that standard or goes above it. So you just need to push whatever you've got above that standard.
Yeah.
Some things take a lot of work and only just get above it. Other things are, way above it before you've even started, which is, of course, the dream thing to work with. But
I know we're going away from playing this track, but just quickly. So you hear, because I hear things. I was in Australia. I was working with a ukulele player.
Yeah.
And I heard her songs, but I heard them in a bigger entirety than she was just vocal and ukulele. Yeah. I heard them, and so I asked her, could I do them? And I did actually. I produced her album. I suppose it's called producing. And I got drummers in to play the drums. I got trombone players in to do parts, and I could just hear the bigness of what she could aspire to. That's essentially what you do.
Absolutely, yeah. That's all it is. I mean, you don't, to the point where you don't have to do anything. You can say, right, drummer, do this, player, do this. Get someone else to mix it, get someone else to actually record it. You just sit in a massive chair being fanned by 2 ostrich feather fans.
Isn't that what Quincy Jones does?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's what I aspire to.
Nowadays, definitely. Go on. Yeah, let's get this track up because I'm curious. As.
All right, here we are.
This is the distance.
Yeah.
Between how many 20 years difference?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
20 years difference in files.
18, yeah.
Okay,
I'm curious as mustard.
Here we go.
I was going to. Well, no. I was just getting into it, and it ended.
Yeah. No, that's what my wife says. Yeah, sure. I mean, it was a bit too long before it needed cutting down. I may have cut it down too far. Yeah. It's still a work in progress. I was doing it today, so it's.
To my mind, a question that comes to my mind is: did you have a vision for that?
No, and I wanted to keep that whole.
You don't think, I could push this for an advert. I could push this to an ambient, or a skateboarding movie soundtrack, or I could push this to.
Sure,
you don't think like that.
I think there's a kind of, as I said before, there's a kind of standard that you have to hit. That if you hit that standard, then it will suit a multitude of purposes, and it needs to be that kind of broadcast standard, which is. Fine, I can,
So when you say broadcast standard, are you talking quality of sound, or are you talking quality of the overall
for me
track substance?
I'm probably because I'm a little bit punk rock in this regard. It just needs to be loud enough. It needs to be that hitting 0 dB. All the frequencies are there. It's if you drop it in with any other audio, it's not going to sound out of place.
Yeah.
If it's not balanced in some way. If it's too thin, too trebly, too bassy, whatever, then it jumps out. And actually, listening back to that, with these headphones, but it sounded a little bit bassy to me. Kind of want to tweak it, but it's just getting that kind of.
There's industry standards for that.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So there's actual guidelines you can follow.
Oh, I don't know about that. Okay. To my ears, there are. Yeah. I don't know that there are.
That's what I'm trying to find out for myself.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess that the whole thing that it hits 0 dB and doesn't go beyond
Clip.
that. It doesn't clip.
Yeah,
It
and all
doesn't-
that. Yeah.
So it has to. You can tell when you sort of drive something up against a limiter. Whenever you mix, you should always have a reference piece to
That's
mix
it, yeah.
by, so that you can tell if it sounds louder compared to your track or quieter or whatever. And if you're overcooking that limiter, which to be honest, most bands are these days, because there's this whole limiter wars thing where they just turn them up.
Mastered
and up
for iTunes. That's my favourite one.
that's a new one. I've not heard that
No,
one. So what
check
does
that
that mean?
I don't know really know, but there is mastered for iTunes. I don't understand what it means.
I just my battle today is that everyone's listening to beautifully created music on these tiny little freaking.
That's probably what it means.
there is that,
Actually,
yeah.
Mastered for iTunes probably means mastered for crappy iPhone
Yeah,
speakers.
it probably does. Probably most for laptop speakers.
I
You know
suppose
what I mean?
there is a kind of mid-range that whenever you're in a studio, you have your reference monitors, and they're supposed to be flat, so you can hear everything, but it draws your attention to that mid-range.
Yeah.
Whereas if you stick it through your nice hi-fi speakers, you get all the low end coming and the
That's it.
crispy
Yeah.
highs. It sounds wonderful, but it's normally a bit sort of scooped. So if you get that mid-range, crunchy mid-range sounding right, then it will sound good on a phone or on a laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's what they're driving at. I don't know, but there's kind of various standards. What it boils down to is, does it sound good? Does it feel good when you listen?
That's it.
And that's essentially it.
Because I've got a.
You're gonna have to oil that door.
No, it's a part of the podcast. It's every episode.
You see the Kelly Casey.
Kelly's entered the room.
Or the cat. Sometimes it's
She's having a diet
cat
Pepsi
meowing.
from the fridge.
But I think it's I don't know. Go and talk about performance. Like, you can capture a performance of a song. I've got some guy walked into a Black Flag concert with a dictaphone, basically, and it's just the most awesome Black Flag concert I've ever heard. I don't know when it was, when it was and where it was, but I've got a bootleg
Yeah,
copy
that
of
up
it.
his head for an hour, did it?
Probably, yeah. I don't know. Yeah,
It gets progressively quieter.
but it's an amazing set, and I can listen to that over and over again. The sound quality atrocious, but because the power is there, the performance is there, that's what I love.
Yeah, I think most of it comes down to what we were saying about earlier, the whole kind of comparative thing. If you drop it into a radio playlist, if it sounds out of place, then it could have a negative impact on the saleability of the track. If you're listening to one thing, like a whole gig or whatever, you quickly become quite accustomed to the way it sounds. So it's less important. You compare it to anything from the sort of 80s, early 90s. The level difference is, it's really noticeable. You listen to kind of records that were big rock records.
The Police
of the
is one that always does it.
Yeah,
For me. The
but
Police are
Police
really
in particular are quite kind of garagey, for want of a better word. Def Leppard was always one that at the time was this is the pinnacle of what studio rock albums can sound like, and actually now it sounds really thin, and you know, when you compare it like for like, and it's not normalized and it's not through a compressor, it's not on the you can hear a big difference. Is that the right thing? Quite possibly not, because what you're doing, pressing it up against a limiter, it's a little bit like when you press your face against a window, Yes, you're putting everything up to the same level, but you're losing your features when you're doing
Wasn't there a huge talk of the Metallica one, which was just mastered so loud or something? It was almost brash. And
but Californication was known for it as well.
Was it? Yeah.
And because I've got the stems for a lot of it, and the guitars are so compressed, it sounds weird. It sounds really weird. That's a Rick Rubin thing.
What, compressing?
Yeah, having just lining everything and pushing everything to the max and just losing all the dynamics out of it.
I want you to give me, while we're talking about it, I want you to give me a description of what compression does.
I wanted to ask that question.
Because it's probably the most talked about, whatever it is, added. So important, compress this, compress that, compress the bass. We've got bass players. I never ever used one, but we have. You can buy a compressor pedal for a bass.
I've got a compressor pedal, and I set everything to 12, and I just turn it on.
I feel like
you know this, man, don't you?
Jesus Christ!
I feel when I've used one, to be honest, and I feel like I lose complete control of my style, what I want.
Have you ever seen what you've recorded on a waveform?
Yeah.
So there's the kind of the Christmas tree thing. If you go boom, you hit a drum and it's kind of a Christmas tree on the side. It's fat one and it drops down. What the compressor does is it kind of tries to replicate what happens when you hear sound in the real world. So backtrack a little bit. If you listen to this recording, you will hear us talking, and you will hear a lot of the room.
Yes.
You'll be quite aware of the room. If we took our headphones off right now and talked to each other, that room sound would still be there, but our brains would kind of filter it out. We'd ignore it and just hear our voices like we're right next to each other. And, that's kind of... There's a difference, there's a disparity between what's actually going on in the real world and what your brain does to that sound to pick out the bits that you can hear.
Yeah.
So your brain, getting back to compressors, your brain ignores the peaks, the big loud transients. It doesn't need to go, that was really loud.
Yeah.
It just kind of tells you about the rest of it. So a compressor does that. It chops off that very loud peak by turning it down, attenuating that level. And then as it comes, the rest of it comes down, the rest of that Christmas tree is there, it kind of brings the level back in again.
Okay.
So what it does is it gives you a constant sound. You can hear all of that. I mean, I say constant, it depends how you set it. It's not... It's anywhere between the original sound, which is very loud at the start, and then getting quieter, to something completely flat for the duration. Is somewhere between those two, and you want to make it sound natural. When you set a compressor right, you can see it's working, you can't really hear it unless you're going for a special effect.
All right, yeah. It's cool.
What it does is take away the peaks, and in doing that, you know that all of your hits, all of your notes are kind of the same.
And
similar
sort
of volume.
You compensate the gain.
Yeah, so make-up gain brings up anything that you cut off, it brings it back in again. Okay. It's just where it does it, so it takes away the loud bits and then brings out the tone. And
I understand all that.
Yeah.
But then I look at my compressor plugin, which I'm going to be fiddling with later on this, and it's got ratios and it's got needs,
ratios. It's got all sorts.
So ratio is the amount of decibels above your threshold that it allows through. So if it's 2 to 1, you're halving it basically. For every 2. Am I explaining this properly? Sorry, 1 to 2 even, it's the other way around. Every 1 decibel is only letting half of that through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're going to go all the way from 0 up to 100, it's going to...
Whereas a limiter would not let nothing through.
A limiter, it gets to a point and then it stops.
Okay.
So
and then a noise gate.
A noise gate is the other end.
It
chops off
the bottom
the hiss
part, the hiss and the crap that you don't need. Yeah, so it's
the noise,
yeah.
And of course, if you set it really high, it will just like a snare drum. If you set it really high, you just get that. You get that kind of the Quincy Jones thing. So you can use it creatively.
Tight. Yeah.
But you really need to put a noise gate on these mics.
Are you?
No, I've tried that, but with speech.
Yeah.
But with speech, because speech goes up and down so much, I've tried putting a noise gate on it, and you miss half the words.
You do, yeah. Well, you've set it too high, so you've got to set it lower.
Well, yeah, but if you set it on 1 out of 100, you can't set it any lower, really.
Yeah, but if it takes off that's underneath, then that's good. If it takes off a bit of that room reverb, it's good, potentially.
What if we Justin Mendel, that guy, he likes all his lo-fi stuff, so do we.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves everything. He likes a bit of hiss. I like
Do you know Justin Meldrew Johnson? He was the bass player for Nine Inch Nails.
And Beck.
And he's now produced Paramore.
Amazing. He's got a lovely
World.
short scale...
He's got a Mustang signature.
Mustang. It's beautiful looking thing.
I'll show you later, it's nice.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because he's involved with Paramore, I know quite a lot about this guy. I speak to him on the internet. He's an internet friend.
Oh wow!
Danger. Did he ask for photos?
He asked to meet you at a car.
Oh, it's the halfway point. Oh, it's the halfway point. It's the halfway point at the Hotel California. It's the halfway point.
So Matt and I in a 6-bit fish.
Yeah.
In between the 2 wedding sets, we get really bored.
We do really bored. And not to mention the time between each wedding as well.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to dream up things to do to amuse ourselves.
One of the games we play is that we like to taste wedding cakes and compare wedding cakes from wedding to wedding.
Yeah, brutally.
we started a spreadsheet on our Google Sheets thing. So
But see, hang on. Some people might not know that you're a wedding band, covers band, they might just think you're crashing weddings and tasting people's cakes. But
Well,
no,
actually,
most
paid
people
to be there and to judge their cake without them knowing.
And this spreadsheet got ridiculous. I think it must have had 15 different categories.
There were many categories,
from texture of filling to...
Did it have oral cling?
We didn't have, this cloying thing, we didn't have
Because
that.
I don't like a cake that clings in your mouth too much. I like it to be chewed, nicely swallowed, and not like,
Sure.
not like
and to pass through without complication.
We would have had to have taken the spreadsheet home with us to do that.
yeah. Okay.
So me and my delightful assistant Casey. Say hello.
Say hello.
We have designed a game for you today to celebrate you coming in.
Great.
I have been to 4 well-known supermarkets, and then there's a wild card.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay.
There's a wild card as well.
Not Russian, is it?
I've bought chocolate cakes from each one. We've scaled it down to 3 categories, which are taste, presentation, and aroma. Your job, both of you, not me, because obviously I know what cake it is. Your job, both of you, is to taste the cake and give each category, taste, presentation, and aroma, a mark out of 10.
Well, it's the straight wedding presentation on this, I think.
They do all look a bit like cowpats, but that's because in total I didn't spend more than 10 quid.
No, I mean,
I'm with you on that. The presentation of this looks like it's been slopped on.
it's horrendous, isn't it?
It is a bit.
I mean, we are used to wedding cakes, the best, the creme de la creme of
The
cake.
standard is a bit higher at your venues, yes. But this, it's got some flaking, chocolate flaking, which they've tried to
Throw on.
yeah.
And what's this? What's happening
they're
here?
just
It looks
saying-
like someone's put their elbow in it. That's
Yeah,
horrendous.
someone has touched that with one of their
So I'm going
Alright.
to give that one
appendages.
All right, let's be quick about this. Let's make this speedy.
Straight in. All right,
straight in. I'm going to
Alright.
give it 2.
Okay.
cutting it. Oh,
All right, Casey's bringing some.
No,
Thank you very much, Casey. So there's a couple of forks here. I don't know how we're going to do this
gonna
without
do
making
this
a
like
massive
this.
mess because the cakes are quite sloppy.
Oh, nice. I'm going to grab it.
All right.
I'm going to eat it in a corner as if we're at a wedding, trying not to look like we're
Try and look like
guests or gate crashers. No, we're paid to be here.
I'm straight in.
Would you like some, Casey? Have you brushed your teeth?
No, I'll have some in a second.
I'll have some now. It's all right. You can help us out.
I seem to remember that she might have had some earlier.
Was that because she came in with chocolate all over her face? And so did Kelly as well.
Oh, man, it tastes like sugar. And all I can think about is how much is sticking to the roof of my mouth.
That's the cling.
It's cloying. We should have
That's really clingy.
clingy.
Right. What about?
Taste. I don't know.
Yeah, don't forget to sniff it.
Don't forget, your taste this is what you're going to judge the rest of the cakes on.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
There's definitely
Yeah, don't
chocolate
go
in
too
there,
low because this might be the best of the bunch.
but I'm going to give it a solid 6, I think.
yeah, I'm going to go a standard 5 on
Okay.
that.
Thank you very much, Casey. Can we have cake number 2, please?
Did you have a smell of that one?
Oh, no, I didn't. Aroma. Just, yeah, it smells like
Yeah.
London Pride.
Lovely. Funnily enough, mine smells like Tanglefoot.
There we go. Here's cake number 2.
Oh, look at that.
What about the aesthetic?
That's
of it?
dainty, and look at
That
I
is-
actually appreciate the way that they've
That
done
is
that.
B.
That's nice.
Oh yeah. Do you want the chocolate
Smiley
button?
faces.
Casey wants the chocolate button off the top. Go on and take
Go
it.
for
Go
it.
on. It'll damage the presentation, but we've already looked at that.
I'm going to give that one a 7.
And where did
Yes.
our forks go? Did you take the
Oh,
forks away?
there's a fork here. Is that one? I don't know.
Oh, where's the knife? Have you got the knife? Thank you. Can I use the fork to scrape the cling off the last knife? Oh, that's much thicker.
This is an audio format, so as many words as possible.
Oh, yeah. Wow, it's alive. It's alive with flavour. That's not real icing in the middle. That is a bit of, what's the word? Vanilla sponge.
Polyfiller?
That is vanilla sponge.
It's
Oh, is that right?
not chocolate sponge, it's just pale.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Casey. Let's have number 3, please.
Oh,
That's actually pretty good.
that's much better.
Oh, see, I'm seeing happy faces here.
That was good, no, I enjoyed that.
Now, be honest, Matt. Was that better than some of the wedding cakes
Sorry, I'm changing.
that we've had over the years?
I'm changing aroma to cling. I can't smell any of them.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Cling.
So the cling is how much it sticks to the roof.
Yeah.
So the more it clings, go low.
Go low,
Alright,
yeah.
'cause
So I'm going to give the
cling
last
is a
one a
bad
1
thing.
because that was right. Sorry, the first one a 1. That one's a 5 because I'm indifferent about the whole thing.
For aesthetic, for number 3 we've got here, there is a slice taken out. That's because that was my way of rewarding Casey and her friend Jamie. Hello Tristan, if you're listening, who's Jamie's dad, for making the little flags we've got stuck in the top.
That's very nice.
There's no one listening, let's be honest.
This one looks similar to the first one, so I'm going.
Yeah, it's got to be low again, hasn't it?
Low, yeah. It's been the screed.
It doesn't go all the way across. What is it about that? Is there maybe it's the belly of the person that's spreading the icing on is actually leaning into the space where they should be spreading the icing.
Come on, get it, Danny, Is it nice?
All right, I'm just going to cut some bits. All right.
Okay, thanks. This looks incredibly similar to the first one. I have to say.
Actually.
I'd say it came from the same factory.
Same concreter. Oh,
Yep.
I'm just picking it up. Here we go.
Identical marks because I think it's the same cake.
Oh, interesting. There's no tricks, there's no red herrings. They are all from the same place. It's not like I just bought 5 cakes exactly the same. Thank you very much, waitress Casey.
Cling is slightly less though.
We have number 4, please.
How many did you buy? 5.
Oh, my God.
And you are taking one home with you, or maybe even 2.
I'm chocolated out.
Now this one. Oh, see, Casey's giving us a thumbs up, like she likes this one. And again, there's a slice taken out of this.
This one,
it's got some sprinkly stuff.
it does. It has nice little cocoa drops. What are they called? Chocolate drops. I'm going to just get straight in and cut it, but I've lost my knife.
Oh, read the knife again.
Sorry, Casey, can I have that knife? Thank you.
She's only working for tips, by the way.
No, I'm not.
No, yes you are.
Working for cake. Oh, lordy. I'm just going to give you that. If you knew what... Oh.
This, again, looks a very similar cake.
It's a very similar
No, it's got sprinkly bits on the top.
No, but the actual cake, I wouldn't be surprised if they came from the same factory.
Carl did say before he came in, you know what, I don't actually like chocolate cake. Do you want to say something?
But I'm still stuck in my face with it.
None of them are from the same place.
No, absolutely. Oh, well, I believe that you bought them from different shops, but are they from the same supplier?
In the same factory, basically.
That one tastes better.
But that one tastes better, you see.
Well, I think that one's less clingy, so I'm going low. So no, I'm going higher. Sorry.
If I'd have done this properly, I would have had a bucket for you to spit the cake out in between.
How is that proper?
That's how wine people
That's how wine do it. That's how they do it with the wine. Yeah.
I've got chocolate cake on my nose.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. Here's the last one.
Who's the last one?
Oh, Casey's got a thumbs down. What
Hey, no.
What about the appearance of this sorry-looking thing?
No, I don't mind that. That's nice. That's simple looking.
It is very simple, like the village idiot. It's not.
Hold on, just screed the knife. Right, I'm still just gonna. Oh, it's solid.
Yeah, you want the knife to fight back a little bit, don't you? You don't just want it to go straight through.
Yeah,
there you go.
Get some good consistency.
Oh yeah.
It's sick after this. Too much cake can make you...
Too much cake can make you vomit. Casey's tip of the day.
Now that is a light and fluffy sponge.
Yeah, it is
Really?
light and fluffy. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, see, so appearances can be deceiving.
And that's a nice, because I'm not too much of a fan of chocolate. Just a simple layer in the middle is quite nice. It's very nice.
Overly sweet, is it?
Oh, interesting, because it looks like the worst cake.
It looks like it's got the worst presentation by far. But the taste, that's my favourite taste. I'm going 7.5.
So, you've written
I'm
all your
gonna go
numbers
for
down.
7.
Casey's going to take them away, and without using a calculator, just using her brain, she's going to count up all of them, and she's going to add each one up, and then write a total here, yeah?
And then I'm going to add them together.
And then add the 2 totals. That's it. You got it.
Nice.
And then
Alright,
we should announce
do you need the pen? There we
which
are.
supermarket has the best chocolate cake.
Wow.
I'll be back in a second.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Gonna go
Thank you very
to the
much.
calculator.
I still love the fact that her voice is your sat-nav voice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Turn left.
Turn left. It cracks me up every time.
All right, I'm gonna pause the podcast here and have some interval music while Casey's getting her brain working, and then we'll come straight back and announce the winner. So, quickly before we announce the results, I better tell you the stipulations I imposed upon myself. As I went into the supermarket, it had to be a chocolate cake. It had to be a brand of the supermarket.
I thought you were going to say a brown chocolate.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Apart from the wild card. And also, it had to be the cheapest chocolate cake I could find. So there wasn't any amazing, like, covered in gold, kind of amazing, sparkly chocolate cakes. It was the bog standard cake.
Okay.
Casey is here.
Can I just chime in and ask you, if we ever do this again, can we do carrot cakes?
Oh, yeah, I do like a carrot cake. Coffee and walnut.
Yeah, coffee and walnut cake. That's right, thank you.
Right, say hello, Casey, because she's back.
Hello.
Casey, which cake got the most points?
Oh.
Okay. So.
Now, Casey, you've got to say it in the microphone, otherwise it won't end up on the thing.
And we'd hate for this to be lost.
Here.
So, the one with the most points was number B.
Yeah. Gotcha.
She does mean letter B. As soon as she said it, she realised.
And.
Well, hold on, we should do it. No, hold on. Go from the bottom first. We want to hear the worst cake first.
Yeah, what was the worst
cake? Reverse order. Have you prepared for this?
Okay, the worst one was number A.
Letter A.
The one that was apparently all clingy.
Keep saying
Where was that from? Where was letter A from?
Yeah.
Letter A was from Waitrose.
Waitrose
That
was
shocking.
the worst cake. Are we getting this?
Unbelievable. And I bet it was the most expensive.
It was certainly the most expensive, and it was the worst cake. We are offering groundbreaking results here. We are going to rock the
Not
system.
to mention, it was barely decipherable from two of the other cakes.
Yes,
which
exactly.
I'd be very interested to know what the prices of those
What was
were.
second to worst, Casey?
Second to worst was cake C.
Cake C was second to worst, and cake C was from?
Asda.
Asda was second to worst.
Asda.
Okay.
No surprises there.
All right. What was our middle cake? What was the third worst?
Our middle cake was number D.
Letter D.
Letter D was from Tesco.
Tesco's was the middling cake.
Tesco's, they are middle though, aren't they?
Okay.
Tesco's, I think.
Okay.
Okay. Which cake came in at number 2? What was the second best?
Number 2.
Letter 2. Number 2. Hold on.
Letter 2
Letter 2.
was 30.5
It's got a 30.5.
Oh.
and from Morrison's.
And was from Morrison's. And that was. Oh no, I'll say it at the end because I don't want to spoil it.
I love the fact you don't want to ruin this in any way.
Okay, number 1.
This is the winner. This is the
The
winner.
winner is...
Letter B.
Letter B.
Surprisingly, the winner.
The winner.
Cheapest one from Thornton.
It was the cheapest one, and it was the Thorntons.
I
cake.
throw my pen down.
So
Me.
And so number A got 19.
number A got 19.
Number
Letter B.
2.
Letter 2,
Letter B was the winner and got 36.
36
Whoa.
for letter 2.
Letter C
Letter C,
was 20. Letter
20.
D was 27. And letter E was 30.5.
that means the best one nearly got double the points of the first one.
That's
So,
Absolutely unbelievable.
Thorntons here was the wild card.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was-
I'm amazed that you went to Thornton and gave them money for this.
Well, it was £4,
Yeah.
but because it runs out today, like the best before
you got
today,
it.
it
You
went
got
down
it.
to
Yeah.
80 pence.
Genius.
The one that you thought was second was the one that didn't have any topping on, and that was the second cheapest.
Yeah.
For Morrison's. So the one that won was the cheapest cake, and the one that came second was the second cheapest cake.
Unbelievable. Now that says either a lot about...
I was just about to say the same thing as you.
Casey's
Our tastes are...
Casey's bedtime is very soon. She's got one more thing to say before Mummy gets really annoyed.
Hopefully it's turn left.
Can I just say thank you, Vane, for setting up this game. And good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Give us a high five.
Give us a high five. Yes.
20 minutes past her bedtime as well. She's had a good night. Chocolate cake.
It was worth staying up for,
Don't
though,
be
I think.
sick.
I'm not going to make that promise.
Well, there we go.
Is there any more?
There we go. I think we've learned a lot there.
I'm shocked.
And there's a shitload more cake. So Matt and I don't know if you remember this actually. The first time we met, is because the wedding stroke function band I'm in, Six Bearded Fish, our sound guy, he left us to his name was Joe. His name still is Joe. He hasn't died. It's fine.
Well, maybe.
He left because he started up an app which is doing well.
Oh yeah.
And so we were on the lookout for a new sound engineer. We were in the talking heads, and I don't think you were behind the desk at the time. But we have a mutual friend who said, "Well, Matt's over there, and he's awesome, and you need to go and talk to him." So I went over and spoke to you, and you gave me a business card, and then we got.
Wow, that business card.
Yeah, there was a business card.
God, have you still got it? I need that. I think it's got my old phone number on there. Yeah.
And then we chatted, and then you started doing gigs for us, and then how long have we known each other? 4 or 5 years.
More than that.
Like professionally.
It pops up thanks to Facebook. I know it's like 7 years or something ridiculous.
So that is amazing, isn't it?
I know.
Do you remember that? Do you remember?
I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember you. Coming out of the darkness in between the kind of desk and that pillar in the middle.
Like a haze of light.
Just a haze of light. Yeah, that's exactly how. I remember it
Haze
as
of Aden.
a religious experience. That's exactly how I remember it. Yeah. No, I do remember that, and and that's how everything works, isn't it? In this industry, everything is word of mouth. I've been endeavouring to spend money and time on things like advertising and social media. Well, social media is kind of all right. It's halfway between the real world and some obscure abstract reality. I struggle. But invariably it doesn't. The people that go, I want to be a friend. That actually they don't. Nothing comes of it.
No, exactly.
And everything I've ever done has been through people that you know.
Yeah. So you've got to know. You've watched me probably hundreds of times play, and you know that I am technically inept. Like I have a shitload of pedals, and I said, I just set them all up to 12, and I see what it sounds like. And if it doesn't sound very good, I don't know what I'm doing about it. So for the want of a better phrase, you tweak the knobs for me. And then make it sound good.
Completely fluffed, and then carry on with the gig. There we are.
But I was wondering if you had, because there might be some people out there who are maybe just starting or have just formed their first band and are starting to get into the world of gigging. Mm-hmm. So they're probably looking for a sound engineer, such as yourself, or they're going to venues where a sound engineer is already kind of installed. Yeah. How much work and to what point should they get? Talking like things about tones and levels and EQs and all that kind of stuff. Should they get to before someone like you comes in and kind of takes over?
It's one of those things, like so many other things in the music industry. If a really good band sort of doesn't need an engineer because they know how to balance their own levels. If you can balance your own levels in the room on a stage, you don't desperately need the engineer, because it doesn't matter what your venue engineer does. If he completely messes it up, it still sounds pretty good to begin with. You'd have to go really far out of your way to mess it up. But it's just like, the big studios, the production. If you are at that level and you've got that really good sound, then your engineer can just push it to the next level and make it that little bit better. So it depends what your engineer's for. Are they firefighting? Are they trying to make it sound good? I hate to use polish a turd, but there we are.
Also, like I think of bands like Rollins Band. They've had the same engineer, Theo Van Broek, since Dot. And I know they're not going anymore. But he's part of the band, essentially, in the musician's eyes. He's part of the band, I
think there's a trust thing there, isn't there? There's a whole kind of knowing that someone that you know knows how it should sound.
You've created,
is in control of the sound.
Yeah, you've created this music, and then when you're first starting out, you haven't got a sound guy, and the guy at the venue is your guy. You've got to trust him to make the front of house sound good. He's never heard you before. Yeah, I always used to worry about that a bit, and that's when you get your long lead and go and walk out the front without trying to.
I hate those guys.
Without trying to insult him, It's like
the thing is, I am that guy. Absolutely. I will walk behind the desk if I need to and go get a shoulder barge, and there we go.
But a lot of bands, when they rehearse, they rehearse for like 4 hours a week or something. They spend a lot of time on this note or on this note or on this note, and like the minor little details of their playing. Yeah. Do you think that maybe their time would be better spent thinking about sorting out the contour on their amp, or the high and the low, and then because a lot of musicians, I don't think, feel very confident about that. Don't really understand what it means. Whereas their fingers hitting a certain string and fret. Sure, they understand that.
I think the danger is when you walk into any room, whether it's your rehearsal studio or whatever gig you're playing, you kind of go, oh, if it sounds bad, it's kind of the room's fault. It's kind of the gig's fault. It's kind of, it's just our rehearsal studio. My amp's not great, but, and they kind of wait for someone to fix it for them. And that's never going to happen. If you've got the worst amp in the world, you need to get the best sound out of it possible. Mm-hmm. So you need to put more effort in. Yeah. All that having a great amp does is mean that actually whatever you do with it kind of sounds good. If you've got a really nice valve amp and it's working and it's not, not
you can have that the other way also. We can have the guy with all the gear and no idea. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it works both ways.
Quite often less is more, especially when you're talking about being inexperienced and not knowing what to do. But it's just about getting a balanced sound. So if your guitar sounds harsher than your drums, for example, or bassier than your bassist, then you got to do something about it. It needs to fit in its right place, but it just needs to sound right with the things that are in the room. You need to treat guitars as if they are an acoustic instrument. That they are something that is making a sound in a room. The fact that it's going through your amp through a speaker, don't let that put you off. Mm-hmm. You are still in control of it.
Well, what's the best way to find a good sound, do you think? Because I've seen some of these Marshall amps have got like 15, 20 different knobs on them.
It
just freaks me out as well.
I mean, it's not an easy question to answer because it depends what's wrong with the sound as to what you put right. If it has that many options, there's probably something fundamentally wrong. You got to remember that when you plug in a guitar to a power amp, that power amp, before you've done anything to it, will affect the sound. Plug it into a speaker cab, especially a guitar cab, that will affect the sound. It has its own EQ, if you like. It has its own shape. So when you put those two things together, especially if they've got the same problem, they've got a horrible kind of 2K kind of peak or something, put them together.
2K, explain.
2000 hertz, so it's the frequency.
That's squeaky, right?
It's not really squeaky, but it's quite squeaky.
That's £2,000.
Every sound you hear is on a frequency range, and what human beings can hear is between 20 hertz, 20 kilohertz. Broadly speaking, music is somewhere between 100 and kind of 10 is where you really where everything's happening, so you need to know what you're doing with that. I think the most important thing I ever learned as an engineer was how to ring out a PA, which is where you plug in a mic, you turn it up until it feeds back. When you hear that feedback, you get a note. There is one control on your graphic EQ that will take away that note, that will take away that feedback, because you're recognising the frequency from the note.
Okay.
It's that one there.
Also, A is 440.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you go through a few. If you're in a room that's got a horrible PA, which most rooms, do, you kind of go through the first one and then turn up a bit louder, and then there's the next one, and you just ring out a few of them so that the first things to feedback don't feedback during the gig, and that's really all it's about.
This is when it's a sound guy's pointing a mic at a monitor, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's quite an extreme way to do it. I would say that you should do what the singer does, which is stand, probably not doing the loud singing, because, when you're louder, your mic doesn't need to be as loud. But if you're between songs and you're just talking and it starts to feedback, that's no good. So just do that. Go 1 2 1 2, and my favourite, hey 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 hey, 1 2. Do you know why they say 1 2?
Don't know. Is it something to do with the T? It's got the T.
You're on the right line. So 1 is 1, you get the low.
All right.
2, you get the T. So I'm there going 1, 2, 1, and it's just to hear that. Yeah. And when you hear that, you can hear what's wrong with the high frequencies, and you pull them out, and you EQ, you equalise the sound.
Yeah, I love it when there's a reason.
I don't feel so stupid doing it.
No. Yeah.
And hey is for the mids. Hey, it's in there. So when you can equalise a sound, the whole thing, the whole frequency, then you're doing exactly the same thing to every instrument. You can. You want it to be in the right kind of frequency range, and that skill carries across to getting a good sound everywhere, getting a good mix, mastering, all of it. So it really boils down to that. Get yourself in a room with a graphic and make it feedback. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Find out which one's doing which.
And then that's it. My next question, as a sound guy question.
Sure, go for it.
This is my favourite. I've done when you do numerous gigs and you're on stage.
Yeah.
And you're in monitors. And you go, can I just have whatever the guitar player goes, can I have a little bit more guitar in the monitors, please? Mm. And the sound guy does the old look down on the board, does the old finger push, pretend, and looks at me like, whatever. And then the guitarist goes, yeah, thanks, mate, thanks, that's great.
Yeah.
And he's done nothing. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
That's the DFA button, isn't it?
What button?
The DFA.
DFA?
Does F all.
Yeah, no, I not many times, admittedly, but yeah, there are times when I know, particularly guitarists, actually, I think it's just a reflex thing. I'm feeling a bit insecure, I'm going to ask for more.
Yeah.
The reason particularly guitarists is because their amp is so loud normally that you want to get rid of it from everywhere else if possible. So yeah, that invariably when it's like that, I know that if I turn it all the way from 0 up to 10, they still can't hear it because their own amp is so loud. So I don't bother doing it because it's just going to make a feedback. But invariably, you try to. You try to give people what they want. There are limits to what it can do, and if you've done the whole ringing the PA thing out first, then you can turn up there.
Yeah.
There's no skin off your nose to do it as long as it's not so loud.
Obviously,
at the front.
For people who don't know, the monitors being really loud is additional sound going possibly into the microphones. Yeah. Which is the ring that creates the feedback.
And not just feedback. The guitar comes across the mic, which means that when you're out the front trying to turn the guitar down, actually most of it's coming through the vocal mic, for example. It's very tedious and.
But it's good to know. Everything's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, most of this, as a general rule, if you're starting out, the first question to ask yourself is, are you too loud? Because if you're too loud, then everything else becomes very difficult to mix around you. So bring yourself down to the lowest point.
Okay.
When you're mixing it, it's all about getting just enough. It's not about having loads of anything. It's just enough. As soon as you can hear it, it's just enough. That is when you're hitting the balance point.
It's annoying, because some venues never give you back what you want to feel in it. That feeling, so then you tend to reach back and give your amp a little dial, and that can change everything, obviously, if it's mic'd up or whatever, that's it. But I know it's hard for the musician, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a
another reason to get a friendly sound guy that is your sound guy, because he understands all this and you can talk to him with that. And
so many venue engineers are front of house engineers, or at least that's how they consider themselves. And monitors are kind of secondary. Of course, a bigger venue, you're going to get a monitor engineer who's going to sort out your sound.
That's it.
On stage, irrespective of what's happening out the front.
Yeah.
So that is the ideal. If you're a venue engineer, you need to do both. Really, you need to really focus on monitors as much as you do front of house, and of course if your time's pressed, which it often is, then that's one of the things that goes.
It is one of the most stressful jobs ever when you do, honestly, 'cause I did,
so my wife, right, she's a mental health nurse. She works in police custody with people that come in who are insane.
but even so
they're insane and they've just committed a crime.
I had a specific story, sorry.
Okay, sorry, go for it. It's really bad.
This is going to wipe that grin off your face.
It proper is. I used to do 7 hours of country. I've never done sound engineering before.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm doing 7 hours of a country show of about 30 different bands.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was intense. I was sweating. I've laid bricks. I've done everything. I've built houses. I've run tea rooms. I've done everything. Nothing was hard as that day of running a country and western.
Do you know, it's probably because you care, because you are a musician.
I wanted to make it sound good, obviously, but I was there was guys rocking up with instruments I've never even seen. I'm like, where do I mic that? Where do I mic that in 30 seconds? Because there's 400 people out there waiting to watch the next band.
Thomas Truax. You ever see Thomas Truax came through? He's the guy who used to build his own instruments, and they were mostly kind of essentially acoustic or semi-acoustic. He would have put a transducer in there somewhere so you could plug it in at least, but it was this kind of this wild animal that he would bring in, and he'd have like 10 of them. Every song would have a different one, and he was brilliant to watch, but fucking nightmare to engineer. Just absolutely unbelievable.
It's killer. I've never done. I won't do it again.
Get back on the horse.
But that was my next question. Was your days of sound engineering? Have you always sound engineered before you recorded, or have they in par of each other?
No, actually, I didn't. I engineered at the. I think the first place I did it professionally. Although I used to teach at Eastleigh College, I used to teach the live sound, so I knew my way around the mixing desk.
I was just going to ask: Did your sound engineer help you in the studio?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say
and vice versa. Yeah.
That is the more important skill to learn, I'd say, because I think the tendency in the studio is to go, if you get the sound wrong, That's all right. I can fix it
I'll do
later.
again, yeah.
I'll
It's
do
so
it
much
again.
more. Yeah,
Exactly.
the gig is more immediate.
Yeah, when you're actually in a working studio, if you're trying to turn something around quickly, you need to just get everything sounding good. Before you've even hit record, it needs to sound good. So yeah, you need. It's like being a live sound engineer. You need to have it all. When you press record, it should be half the work should be done already.
All right. Give us 2 minutes for a beginning singer who's having his first recording session.
Oh, okay.
Give us some advice because.
Wow,
basically,
okay,
I want
So
to. I want to try.
The mic technique thing is basically that every mic has a pickup pattern. It has a space. Imagine a kind of orb around the mic where it will pick up better.
Yeah.
So, obviously, when you're away from the mic, you're projecting sound into that orb, and it's going to work. But basically, if you go off to the side, then it sort of disappears off, and if you get too close, you get proximity effect where everything's too loud. Really, you just want to pick a point, and your studio engineer will direct you. I'd say that the probably the more key bit if you're a singer starting out is worrying about your mic technique on stage, particularly if you're holding a mic.
Okay.
But really,
and that's just simple basics, like if you're going to scream a louder note, pull back a bit from the mic. Yeah, simple things like that.
Do it by ear. If you want your voice to be heard at all times, and I guess not too loud at all times. Your engineer can get in there with a compressor and things, but if you're too quiet, there's nothing they can do about it. So don't move away from it unduly. I think people kind of overdo it because they've seen people on the telly kind of waving their head around. Actually, you don't know the gain level on that mic. You don't know if it's a condenser mic or a dynamic mic. It's condenser being more sensitive, so it'll pick up more. So if they go further away, it's not as big an issue. But whereas a dynamic mic, you do that, you disappear off the face of the planet. So it's do it by ear. If you can hear your monitors when you're speaking, maintain that throughout. If you can maintain that level, then you're there.
Okay, common sense, bit of common sense again.
Yeah, like all of it. Yeah,
magic.
So you sent me a load of tracks before we.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Yeah. How many have we done? We've done 2.
We've done 2.
So we've done the first one and the last one. The first one from 18 years ago, and the last one that I did today.
It's like Doctor Who.
That's my
moving around
entire career.
There's one of you I said I really liked. Which one was that one?
Oh, I don't know.
Hold on. Is it this one?
I should have remembered that. Though. Oh, there we go.
It was that one.
Yeah.
Which no one else can hear. The highs, the lows. Talk to me about this track because I really like this one.
This is the first track off of Icy Sparks' debut EP. Okay. And of course, I say debut, I do mean first and last.
So, what's your relationship with Icy Sparks?
I am the bass player, or I was the bass player in this band, and as my...
Is that was because they kicked you out because it doesn't exist anymore?
Was because it doesn't exist anymore. No, I went down with the sinking ship. I was there to the last. But, it was a great band. I really enjoyed this band. It was kind of a bit more accessible than some of my earlier stuff, and it was
because you were more of a metal guy.
I was, and probably not by choice. Basically, someone invited me into a metal band, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And within a year, I had dreadlocks and baggy jeans. It was
which band is this?
Modular Series. Which was kind of weird electro metal scream. There was 3 of us, bass, guitar, and vocals, and we did all the backing tracks with samplers and synths and stuff. Again, sounds much cooler than it actually did. But no, we tried really hard, and actually there was loads of really good stuff in it, and it was really experimental to a much greater degree than anything I've done since, actually. And I'm really proud of that. Although the music doesn't really stand up, and unfortunately it falls into... Sorry, Carl's just eating cake.
And he's chosen probably the cake that came last.
We had 5...
Oh, did that come first?
5 cakes.
Hold on.
We're going to have to put this cake section in before this now for it to make sense.
Yeah.
I was feeling sick 10 minutes ago from too much cake, and you've got more. Modular Series. So we really did experiment, and we were really we tried to be really out there. At the end of the day, we were just quite naive and not particularly talented, which is when where it all went a bit wrong. But actually, a lot of the stuff we did was really great, and I kind of rate that higher than some of the other things I've done since, just for sheer experimentation and for not pulling any punches. Unfortunately, it was kind of born into the world of new metal, which is
hence the baggy trousers and the
baggy trousers. Yeah, they weren't Adidas jeans, but they could have been. They had stripes down the side. And they were, you know, the kind of jeans that used to just trail in the puddles and you had wet legs.
Yeah.
Someone did a meme of that recently. I saw it pop up and I was like, oh, God, yeah, I used to do that. Yeah, so if you were a new metaler in the early 2000s, you know what this was like.
They were horrible to skateboard.
Yeah, horrible, yeah.
They were horrible. But they'd trapped with wheels and
Yeah, because they would fray after 5 minutes and then you'd have these sort of things dragging. Anyway, yeah. So
Icy Sparks has a more kind of an indie vibe, I guess.
It does, yeah. So that was a whole different thing. That came from ex-students again, actually. After my teaching at Eastleigh College, two of the people that were students at the time, after they left, started a band and knew that I was a bass player and, got me involved, and which was great. And, probably of all the bands, it's the most accessible and it's the most likeable now, the one I kind of would listen to voluntarily.
I've got a quick question for Carl.
Yes.
When was the last time you heard the word Icy Sparks? And I know the answer to this.
Well, we've just...
To the mic, Carl.
Oh, you know? Oh, this is great.
No, I remember Icy Sparks. We played with you guys quite a lot.
We did. Well, luckily, you gave us a name drop, which I believe appears on your...
It does. I left it in.
That's it, and that's what triggered my memory, because I've...
How did context? We need context here.
Well, the band... That myself and God, I've got the worst microphone technique. It's all coming into alignment. It's only been 8 podcasts, but the band that myself and Aidan and Rob played.
There's a lot of my friends have said, right, I listen to your podcast and we have a drinking game. Every time we mention this band, we have a drink.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because we go on about it all the bloody time.
You're in a world of pain now, brother. No, we've just released a new album, which is a lot of stuff that we played back in 2005 through till 2009.
Correct.
Yeah. Matt graciously mastered the tracks.
Yeah, well, you very graciously gave me the opportunity after I emerged from my hiatus and of parenting children.
It's good, but they. I actually think they sound really alive.
They just sound great.
I've listened to them. I've actually listened to them on my phone. I've listened to them in my van. My mates at work listen to them, and they don't even like that sort of music, but they love.
I don't even like it, but it sounds good.
They were complimenting the masterer. No, but yeah, actually, in one of the tracks, is the last track we play before Icy Sparks comes on, and I actually say at the end, Icy Sparks are up next.
Yeah. I remember waiting for you guys to finish.
Yeah, can you just get the hell off the stage? We got shit to do.
Jazz, prog, come on. We've got indie hits to pump out.
I was reading through our conversation when I asked you to do it. Maybe 2 months ago.
Oh yeah.
You said, "Yeah, I'll do it." It sounds like a jolly evening's work.
Yeah.
Now talk to me about it now.
So yeah, wow.
Because these recordings were off the desk.
They were off the desk. They weren't. They simply weren't compressed enough.
And we now know what compression is, so we can apply that.
They were hot, so they were distorted. Like some tracks, Deepest Fall particularly was pretty much clipping all the way through.
Yeah.
That'll be my boss horrible fuzz box.
The levels were they would change throughout, so I'd have to kind of tweak. It wasn't just one master per track; it was automation throughout to compensate for the drastic level changes that occurred. And the whole thing was recorded onto probably it was CD, wasn't it?
It was straight onto CD, yeah.
And then I think mostly what you could find for me was MP3s.
Yeah, but then
you did find some.
Andre from Max's Records, he found me the original WAV files
because he has an encyclopedia of
over 1,000 CDs.
Over 1,000 CDs of every gig he's ever done.
We'll have to get him on here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be great.
If you can suggest to him that he needs to remaster every one of those tracks, that would be different.
You'd want to do more of that, would you?
Well, I mean, I'd imagine it wouldn't be quite as... wouldn't all be quite as testing as Caroline's Capuchin was, but...
we are a testing band.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh, because some of the songs on that... I'll be still playing this drinking game. Some of those songs on those Caroline's Capuchin.
Caroline's Capuchin
album.
Sorry, what album?
It's what's it called? Hear No Evil.
Yeah, which actually Matt came up with.
By Caroline.
I did, I came up with that.
That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you know what I was going to do? You sent out the message and I was like, I'm going to send something sarcastic. I thought, no, I'm not. I'm for once. I'm not.
Twats on stage.
I'm actually going to try and think of something vaguely creative. And 30 seconds later, ping. There we go. Had an original idea. And there it is.
It's good though, because obviously it's Caroline's Capuchin Monkey and all that sort of stuff. And the boys are, what do they drink? Tambuco? tequilas. What is this? Caroline's Cappuccino. No, but it sounds great, and it's listenable on Spotify and all that. And not to blow our own trumpets, but I'm quite proud again. And thanks for helping us out again.
No worries. Yeah, I think it's about bringing the best out of what you've got. You know, I mean, what happened in that room, or in any room when you play, is completely different to what actually comes out onto the desk. So trying to get it back to something that has that kind of impact.
That's what I was talking about earlier on, capturing the energy.
Yeah.
It's still a huge thing, isn't it, in the
all
recording process?
The distortion and the mistakes and stuff like that. I like the fact that it's all there. I like the fact that it hasn't been
warts and all.
Yeah, it hasn't been kind of all. I mean, you can't iron it out when it's live, but the aspiration seems to be with recording these days is to get every performance perfect, record everything in a completely dead room, so that you just get the sound from the performers, to the point where there's no variation. Everything sounds the same. It's homogenizing the sound of things. And actually, I like to hear a room. I like to hear
clinical. Is that the word?
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that you can't tell when something was recorded. And I think music doesn't exist in a vacuum. The way people react to it is very much dependent on what's going on at the time. It's all contextual. It's all about the zeitgeist. Throw in that word.
That's what I'm
somewhere someone's having a drinking game for that word. God, where's my bottle gone? I haven't seen it for months.
But I'm obsessed with live recordings. Like, I love bootlegs. I used to go to Reading Festival, and then as soon as a band had played, I'd run to the record fair down the road, and someone would have a tape of it straight away. Back in the day, I'm like, this happened 40 minutes ago. I've already got. But I listen to. But I mentioned Rollins Band. There's I don't know why I mentioned them a lot tonight, but anyway, they did a song, "Liar" it was called, and I'm a liar. And there was one bit where he's talking to the audience, and you can hear the audience reaction. But if you weren't there, you wouldn't know what he's doing. And he does this thing where he's like, "I love you guys," and he talks about how he's a liar and all this sort of stuff. But I love you guys, and you'll come here and I eat your potatoes and your English bland food and all this, and we're all laughing. And then he raises up. You wouldn't know it if you were listening to the bootleg, but you had to be there. He raises up the V sign, in a gesture, and just as the song changes back in the chorus, "I'm a liar," he turns it into a V's. And 70,000 people kind of laugh and go, "Oh, you bastard," you know? Yeah. But you don't, and I love that. And it reminds me, I love that reaction with the live recordings.
Sure,
you're never going to get that in a studio, obviously.
It should always be about a moment. And actually, it's a really weird thing. The more you think about what recording music is, what making records is all about, the more abstract and obscure and bizarre it becomes. Because it's essentially, originally, all music was live. It had to be. There was no other way to do it. It wasn't just the music, it was the duration, the time in which it happened, the place in which it happened. You want to recreate it, you could write down the score and get other people to play it, but it would be different. When you record it, it's like you're trying to remove that part of it, and it's impossible, because if you take a CD and play it in a room, that room, the people in it are going to react differently. If you listen to a CD the first time, you will react differently to when you listen to it the second time. Yeah. So there is no way of capturing something so that it is always the same over and over again. You cannot capture music. It is always a duration. It always just happens. So it's, I think, work with that, play with that. Have that idea, keep the time that something's recorded and the mistakes and the things that happened, the things that came together to make that record. Keep it all on there. You want to be able to hear all of it. And that's it really. I think that's why so much music is quite boring these days, because it doesn't do that enough.
So your producer mind, band like Caroline's Cappuccino, say.
Another drink.
I've
only got a drink here.
Where we are is sort of essentially a jam. We were a jam band with ideas, and we love to deviate and meander through the songs, and we always kind of know where we come back to. But is that the sort of band? Would your mind say, as a producer, I'm going to record these guys live. I'm going to mic them up in their entirety. I'm going to multi-track them and record them live.
Are you looking for someone to do that? Because I'm very reasonable.
That's exactly why I'm asking.
I would extend it beyond. Not just because you're a band that improvises. I would extend it to anyone. I think you can sing the same songs for 20 years, but the way you sing them at the start of that time and at the end is going to be different. And embrace that. Let it evolve. Because everything does. Yeah.
And you can talk about Jeff Buckley singing one of his songs, Hallelujah.
Well, that was a.
Was it Hallelujah?
Leonard Cohen song, isn't it?
Yeah. Didn't he sing it?
Yeah, he did sing it. Yeah,
multiple times, like.
Or what, in terms of getting that take.
Getting the take, and then I think the sound. I don't correct me, people, via email if I'm incorrect. But I think it was 30, 40 times he did it or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then the producer played him back the second take, and
really?
thinking it was the one he'd just done. And Jeff Buckley went, "Yeah, that's the one," and kind of tricked him. And it was the second take, and it just. But I don't know. It's just that's the mystery of music, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think if you try and pin it down, it's it becomes more and more elusive. It's like catching snowflakes. Analogy that I quite often use because you can't catch it. As soon as you got it, it turns into something else. You can't ever pin it down.
And every single one is different. Yeah,
it's a duration. So that's a good thing, I think.
So Icy Sparks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sorry.
So what we did with that was trying to make everything sound the same as much as we possibly could. We don't.
Can I stick the song because I do like this one? You said
you want to put it on now, or is this more radio trickery?
No. Shit.
Well, it's kind of now, but it's kind of not now.
Oh, so you're going to put it on for us?
It's now for us,
and we're going to talk about it. It's like an in-joke.
Okay, all right. I'm pressing stop on the recording.
Whoa.
Say goodbye. I will find feeling the effects all too soon, and I'll stop. Take a look around and fill the room, and to know all I have to do is look at you and tell all my friends I'm not coming back home. I feel like I've been left alone. I don't care how this long.
So you just, while that was playing, you just told us that was recorded maybe 2008ish.
Yeah, I think so.
But it sounds like I listen to a lot of bands at the moment, Everything, and Bombay Bicycle Club and Foals.
Yeah.
It would fit quite nicely into the modern kind of indie,
Well,
I
I
think.
mean, all those bands were there then. You might say modern, but they
that's true. Yeah,
they were all around at that time.
Get it back together.
It was pretty great, wasn't it?
Get it on. Get it. Let's get.
It's great. I really like that one. What I really like is the combination of like the guitars at the beginning with like the rim.
Yeah,
the rim shots and the drums.
Doesn't that sound good? Yeah. And that's all. There's nothing kind of studio about that. That's just the way we played it, and
just
it's
well
great.
written.
Yeah, it just comes together.
Did we mention your bass on that?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure if you did, but yes,
No,
It sounded like a
I just wanted
Schecter
to.
am I right?
It's funny you should say that. Yeah, it was a Schecter. Yeah.
Schecter.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good song. It reminded me of. I hate it when I say this. Like I hear something and I want to compliment it, so I think of a band that I think sounds similar. But there's some old Fiction Plane tracks, which is Sting's son's band, and that intro was like, that's
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
I probably avoided it.
Sting's son. If you don't like Sting's voice, do not. You won't like his son's either.
I don't mind it. Early Police stuff, great.
No, Fiction Plane don't do the Police thing. They rock it a lot more, which is good. They've got a great guitar player who kind of reminds me of Dave Navarro in his soloing style. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
I'm just I'm digressing like I like to do.
So I said to Matt when I invited him to be on the podcast, I said, "Will you be on the podcast?" He said, "Yes, as long as I'm not as long as those bloody other episodes."
All the others that drag on.
He hasn't finished one.
I haven't got time to listen to this.
I'm looking at the clock now. We only go for an hour and a half.
Luckily, some people do.
Yeah, it's true.
We have to find time. This would be an entire evening for me. I'd have to set this aside for a week and not do anything. All the other things I want to do, catch up on Netflix and maybe do some work at some point. I wouldn't be able to do any of it.
What's because this is like going the podcast. Do you listen to any other ones?
No,
me.
I'm terrible. I mean, I don't listen to an awful lot of music. Bizarrely, I've got quite a small...
Kings of Leon. You can listen to Kings of Leon
in the car. Yeah, but if I'm not in the car, then
that means Kings of Leon is 100% of your listening.
Oh my god!
Don't say it like that. But my CD collection is sort of quite small. I have these kind of really important albums that I listen to over and over again.
Yeah,
but actually they encapsulate quite an era. And I don't.
Do you have certain bands that when they bring out an album you buy it regardless?
No, just because I'm so poor at the moment, I don't buy anything. There aren't many. What did I listen to? At the drive-in, I saw that when it came out. I've not listened to it a huge amount.
It didn't get great reviews. I haven't really listened to it.
I know, I've listened to it a couple of times and I quite liked it. It was a bit of what they did before and it was something a bit different. It was probably a little bit towards Mars Volta, which is a bit more...
Oh yeah, Mars Volta.
That's the good stuff, if you ask me.
See, Out the Drive-In for me is better. I love bits of Mars Volta. The first album, there's the first couple of tracks, there's like a chorus in there, which is probably the best chorus ever. I absolutely love it. But it's some of the meandering stuff, I find it a bit... I don't know. It loses something in that meandering, perhaps.
See,
but,
when those guys did a side, they do a million side projects, but they did one called Anti-Mask, which is it's probably one of my favourite albums ever. To be honest,
With Flea on bass.
Flea played bass on some of the
he
tracks.
gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He's everywhere. I've still not heard Atoms for Peace.
But it's
is that good?
Yeah.
Because I quite like Tom York, or not as much as Radiohead.
Nigel Godrich on guitars or keyboards or something.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
some great stuff.
There's so many. I've got a really long list. It's almost as long as the list of things I need to do to my house.
Sorry, that's what you do.
What's that? Fix my house.
Bit of fixing up the house.
Whilst listening to music.
Well, stereo blasting. Perfect.
So I think we should start to wrap this up. Otherwise, Matt, who were you going to listen back to this? You're one of these people.
I won't bother. No, I mean, no. I know what happened.
You been through it once.
I know.
Haven't you?
That's it.
Cake
I know.
So we have a tradition at the end.
Oh,
Unless there's anything else you want to add, because
no, I'm good. I just don't want the tradition at the end because
it puts you on the spot and you have to do some singing.
yeah. Can we change the rules for next?
No.
Oh shit.
Right, what have you dug out on your phone?
Nothing.
No, you have.
Is this a similar to the one? Is he just watching porn?
Yeah, I see what he's got. It's not far off. Okay, what kind of style do you want?
Well, I don't know. You guys. Oh, I don't know. Ram it in with some. Can we do some hill? All right, hang on. Go on, yeah. I can't do it.
I can't do it. You can't stop.
All right. Start again. Come on.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. We are FD1. Honey, we know the names. We are the people that you find whenever you may need. If you've got the money, honey, we got your seeds in the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. What you bring it to your shanana your